He was the total package. The perfect choice, backed by legends, and seen by many as the next in line for wrestling's most prestigious prize. He was destined to be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. But this isn't the story of a coronation. This is the story of a promise broken. It's the story of why the NWA's political machine denied a future legend his destiny, and how that rejection helped forge one of the greatest characters in wrestling history. This is the story of Ted DiBiase, the NWA champion who never was. Before the private jets, the jewel-studded belts, and that iconic, cackling laugh that echoed through arenas worldwide, there was Ted DiBiase, the wrestler. Not the million-dollar man, but a rugged, technically gifted, second-generation star paying his dues in the grueling territorial system of the National Wrestling Alliance. And nowhere did his star shine brighter than in the rough-and-tumble world of Mid-South wrestling. Run by the notoriously tough cowboy Bill Watts, Mid-South was considered by many insiders to be one of the most authentic and hard-hitting territories in the country. This wasn't a land of cartoon characters. It was a promotion built on blood, sweat, and the gritty feel of real athletic competition. For a young wrestler, it was a baptism by fire. For Ted DiBiase, it was the perfect forge to craft a main event reputation. The adopted son of the legendary Iron Mike DiBiase, Ted had wrestling in his blood. After his father's tragic death in the ring, DiBiase was mentored by the Funk brothers, Dory Jr. and Terry, two of the most respected names in the business. They taught him the moves, sure, but also the psychology and the all-important art of making the fans believe. He played football at West Texas State University, a school that was a surprising hub for future wrestling legends, but his real education came from the Funks. He took those lessons to Mid-South in the mid-1970s. It was clear right away that DiBiase was special. He had the size, the look, and the athletic prowess. But more importantly, he had a brilliant mind for the business. Bill Watts, a man not known for handing out praise, saw DiBiase's potential from day one. DiBiase himself has said the knowledge he gained working under Watts was priceless, putting him in the ring with some of the greatest talents in the industry night after night. He wasn't just having matches, he was earning a master's degree in ring psychology. At first, DiBiase was a classic all-American good guy. He was handsome, valiant, and fought with honor. The fans loved him. His popularity led him to capture the territory's top prize, the prestigious Mid-South North American Heavyweight Championship, on multiple occasions. He battled legends like Paul Orndorff and the Junkyard Dog, proving he could carry a company on his back. He was a proven champion and a draw who put fans in the seats. But it was a career gamble in 1982 that truly unlocked his potential. The territory needed a new top villain to challenge the beloved Junkyard Dog. In a meeting with Booker Ernie Ladd, DiBiase volunteered to turn his back on the fans who had cheered him. He actually had to convince a hesitant management that he could be the bad guy the territory needed. The turn was a masterpiece. It wasn't a sudden betrayal, it was a slow burn. A friendly rivalry with his former ally, JYD, started to show cracks in DiBiase's heroic facade. Then came the defining moment. DiBiase cheated to win, using a loaded black glove, a tactic that would become his signature. The hero was gone. In his place stood a cold, calculating competitor who would do anything to win. The transformation was electric. As a heel, DiBiase was a natural. His promos dripped with an arrogance that infuriated audiences. He carried himself with a palpable sense of superiority. This wasn't a guy who broke rules in a fit of rage. He broke them because he felt they simply didn't apply to him. He was better than the fans, better than his opponents, and he knew it. This run solidified his status as one of the best all-around performers in the entire country. He was a top draw not just in Mid-South, but in other territories like Georgia, and he even ventured to Japan, where he captured the NWA United National Championship with All Japan Pro Wrestling. He had proven he could be a champion in any style, in any territory. The real legends of the era took notice. In interviews years later, DiBiase recalled that his name was very much in the conversation for the ultimate prize, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. According to his own account, the men who held the power, veterans like Harley Race and the Funks, saw DiBiase as the complete package. He had the look, the skill, the promo ability, and a proven track record. By all accounts, he was ready. He was a champion in waiting. So, with all this momentum and the respect of his peers, why did it never happen? Why did the 10 pounds of gold remain forever out of his grasp? The answer, as it so often is in pro wrestling, lies not in the ring, but in the smoke-filled back rooms. To understand why Ted DiBiase never wore the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, you have to understand the NWA itself. It wasn't one single company. It was a coalition, an alliance of powerful, independent regional promoters. And the NWA World Heavyweight Championship was the crown jewel they all shared and jealously guarded. Becoming the NWA champion wasn't just about being the best wrestler. It was a political appointment, decided by a vote among the promoters. The champion was a massive business asset. He had to travel 300 days a year, territory to territory, and be a credible draw everywhere he went. He had to defend the title against each region's local hero, make them look good, and then move on. Most importantly, the champion had to be someone the promoters trusted. They had to trust him not to jump to a rival with their title, which is why champs had to put down a hefty cash deposit on the belt itself. It was a role that demanded not just talent, but unwavering political reliability. By the time DiBiase was hitting his peak, the NWA's landscape was dominated by a few key players. There was Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, the ultimate babyface with immense booking power. And then there was the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. In the late 70s and early 80s, when DiBiase's name was being floated, the NWA was looking for a long-term successor to the legendary Harley Race. DiBiase has stated that, in his view, he was in the final running alongside Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. The promoters wanted their next franchise player, and while DiBiase was a phenomenal talent, he ran into a political buzzsaw. Dusty had the people's hearts, and Flair, well, Flair had just about everything else. Ric Flair was everything the NWA promoters wanted. He had the charisma, the stamina, the unparalleled in-ring ability, and the political backing of the powerful Mid-Atlantic territory. He didn't just play a champion on TV, he lived the part 24/7. He was the limousine-riding, jet-flying, kiss-stealing, wheelin'-dealin' son of a gun. Promoters knew that when Flair came to town, business would be good. He was the safest bet they could possibly make. And once they put the belt on him in 1981, they were very reluctant to take it off for long. The NWA philosophy often called for a dominant heel champion for a stable of heroes to chase. Flair perfected this role. And while the title did change hands with names like Dusty, Kerry Von Erich, and Harley Race getting short runs, Flair was the man who defined the championship for the decade. This created a massive bottleneck at the top of the card. A wrestler like DiBiase, who was every bit as talented, found himself on the outside looking in. According to DiBiase, his decision to remain loyal to Bill Watts in Mid-South, a promotion that had a complicated, often independent relationship with the NWA, and to make lucrative tours of Japan, ultimately took him out of the direct line of succession. From his perspective, the NWA needed a champion who was all in, all the time. Flair was that man. The politics of the era meant that the championship wasn't a pure meritocracy. The promoters had found their man in Ric Flair, a reliable, money-drawing machine. As Jim Crockett Promotions began to consolidate power and go national, Flair's position became even more secure. There was simply no room or political will to insert another long-term champion into the mix. For Ted DiBiase, the timing was all wrong. He had all the credentials of a world champion, but the political realities of the NWA system had, in his eyes, denied him his destiny. This rejection, this frustration of being held back by forces beyond his control, would plant a seed. a seed that would eventually travel north to a different wrestling empire, where it would blossom into one of the most unforgettable characters the business has ever seen. By 1987, the wrestling world was changing forever. The territorial system was crumbling under the weight of Vince McMahon's national expansion of the World Wrestling Federation. McMahon was poaching top talent from everywhere, and he had his sights set on Ted DiBiase. Fresh off a successful run in Japan, DiBiase was a hot commodity. He got a call from the WWF with a simple message: don't sign with anyone until you talk to Vince. That meeting with McMahon changed DiBiase's life. Vince laid out a vision for a new character. He told DiBiase, "The one thing everybody hates is someone who, by virtue of their wealth, bullies people." It was a simple yet powerful concept. This character would be an arrogant, obscenely wealthy millionaire who believed everyone and everything had a price. Vince saw DiBiase as the perfect man for the job. He told him, "I chose you because you're articulate. You carry yourself well. You interview very well. You are a great wrestler. You're perfect for this." WWF executive Pat Patterson famously told DiBiase that if Vince McMahon himself could be a character on his own show, this is who he would be. Vince promised to fly him first class, give him limousine service, and provide him with cash to throw around. And so, the $1 Million Man was born. The true genius of the character is how it seemed to echo the one thing DiBiase had been denied his entire career: a world championship. The $1 Million Man's first major storyline was a direct assault on the WWF Championship. He announced his plan to simply buy the title from the invincible Hulk Hogan. When Hogan righteously refused, DiBiase set out to prove his philosophy that money could buy anything. This led to the infamous events of the main event on February 5, 1988. DiBiase had hired Andre the Giant to do his bidding. In a shocking finish, Andre defeated Hogan for the title after a crooked referee made a 3 count while Hogan's shoulder was clearly off the mat. What happened next became legend. Andre the Giant, the new WWF champion, announced he was surrendering the championship and handed the belt directly to Ted DiBiase. For a few glorious days, DiBiase's lifelong ambition was seemingly realized in the most cynical way possible. He appeared at house shows and was announced to the crowd as the new World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion. He walked the aisle with the title belt around his waist, the physical proof of his belief that he had finally bought his destiny. But it was all a mirage. WWF President Jack Tunney declared the transaction void. A championship, he ruled, could not be surrendered or sold. The title was declared vacant. DiBiase was officially stripped of a championship that the company would never recognize in its record books. It's as if this public humiliation became the final ingredient for the character. If the establishment wouldn't recognize him as champion, and he failed to win the subsequent tournament at WrestleMania 4, then he would create his own prize. Frustrated and incensed, DiBiase commissioned his own custom-made, glittering, jewel-studded championship, the $1 Million Championship. It was the ultimate act of defiance. This belt wasn't won, it was bought. It wasn't sanctioned by any athletic commission, it was sanctioned by his own immense ego. It was a physical symbol of the idea that he was above the very system that had rejected him. He didn't need their validation, he had his own. The NWA's political machine had denied him a world title. The WWF's rulebook had denied him a world title. So, Ted DiBiase embraced a character and created a championship that spit in the face of the institutions that had spurned him. The rejection didn't break him, it defined him. It became the central pillar of one of the most compelling characters in wrestling history. In the end, Ted DiBiase never had his name etched onto the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He never got the long, celebrated reign that many of his peers felt he deserved. He lost the chance to be part of that prestigious lineage, to be mentioned in the same breath as Race, Funk, and Flair. That's a historical fact. But what did he gain from that denial? He gained something arguably more resonant and more iconic. The political rejection by the NWA and the storyline rejection by the WWF became the superheated forge that created the $1 Million Man. He didn't just become another heel, he became a walking, talking embodiment of corporate greed, a perfect villain for the 1980s. He became a pop culture icon. That sinister laugh, the crisp $100 bills, the phrase, "everybody's got a price," it all transcended the wrestling ring. While a traditional championship reign might have faded into the history books, the $1 Million Man feels timeless. The gimmick was so powerful that it elevated everyone he worked with. He was the perfect antagonist for heroes like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Years later, his $1 Million Corporation served as the national debut for a young superstar, then known as the Ringmaster, who would later become Stone Cold Steve Austin. His legacy isn't just in the matches he won, but in the stars he helped create. The real story of Ted DiBiase isn't that he never became a world champion. It's how the closed-door decisions that favored others inadvertently created something far greater. The NWA, in its quest for a politically safe champion, overlooked a man who could have been their perfect heel king. Their loss became Vince McMahon's ultimate gain. They denied Ted DiBiase a title, and in doing so, they gifted their biggest competitor one of the greatest villains the business has ever known. He may be the champion who never was, but in failing to achieve that one destiny, Ted DiBiase found another, far more valuable one. He became the $1 Million Man, and that is a legacy that is truly priceless. If you enjoyed this look back at wrestling history, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and ring that notification bell. And let us know in the comments, who is your favorite wrestler who never won the big one? We'll see you in the next video.